than ever before. It's going to be more successful than ever before. We're going to be more respected throughout the world than ever before. Countries are going to respect us again. They already do, actually. I think you have seen more happen in the last 2 weeks than you've seen in the last 4 years, and we're not even there yet. We're not even there yet. So I just want to thank, this is a fantastic group of people. This is a fantastic turnout. This is very impressive. And you're my friends. You're my friends, and we're going to be friends with this country, and we're going to do something that I've been talking about for 8 years. We had it done. We created the most successful economy in the history of our country. We were doing so good. Our border was the lowest numbers ever, the lowest number of illegal immigrants coming into our border that we ever had. The famous chart. Do you remember the chart that I looked over to the right? Ooh. I still have that throbbing feeling. That beautiful chart that I looked over, well, that chart showed we had the best immigration, the lowest number of people in the history of our country recorded. In the history of our country, that's what we achieved, and we're going to achieve it again, and very fast. It's going to be very fast because we have no choice. But we're going to do something that I've been talking about for 8 years. We're going to do it again, and we have to do it again. And that's, we're going to make America great again. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tyrus. Thank you, Tyrus. Good man. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
That is the one and only Donald J. Trump receiving the Fox News Patriot of the Year award, and no one on the planet deserves it more than him. And he has just given us a sneak peek on how he's going to make America not just great again, but literally the center of the universe. I'm not even remotely exaggerating. I'm going to show you how Trump is not just making America great again. Trump is already in the process of changing the world like never before. This is going to absolutely blow you away. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday, a very special Live Stream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, no longer here to help you stay sane in these insane times. No, you took care of that. You, the patriots of this nation, on November the 5th, rose up in defiance of tyranny, and you took our country back. And that is why I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. If you're brand new to our channel, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You are not going to want to miss a single video of our analyzing and celebrating the rise of a new conservative age, a new civilizationalist, populist world that you are busy bringing about, and you may not even realize it. As always, we've got a jam-packed show for you today. We are live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, you name it. Just a quick reminder, if you want to ask me your questions during our live stream broadcast, because YouTube has unfortunately suspended our super chats. You'll notice our super chats don't work. They've completely demonetized us. It's been a year now. They've demonetized us for over a year. Maybe that will finally get resolved as a result of the new golden age. We will have to see what Google decides there. But if you'd like to ask me your questions, just click on that link below. Go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Join any one of our levels of support. You have instant access to our very own virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. So just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Join any level of support that you like, and you can ask me your questions. It'll be my honor to answer them on this live stream. Now, let me start here. Where's my collar? Should have a nice little collar there. Well, it's even worse. Well, anyway, wardrobe malfunction. Let me start by just coming out and saying, I know many of you are frustrated right now. I know what half your questions are going to be about. I get it. And I'm with you. There is a lot of frustration out there over these pathetic, slimy, snivelly rhino senators like Johnny Ernst of Iowa. You should be ashamed of yourself. Or Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, or Mitch McConnell, or Susan Collins, or Lisa Murkowski, who don't quite understand, who are seemingly so absurdly obtuse to understanding what really happened on November 5th, what you made happen on November 5th. November 5th was nothing less than the single biggest Republican presidential landslide in over 40 years. In many respects, it was far bigger than what happened in 1988 when George Herbert Walker Bush won 40 states, because George Bush was living off of a borrowed coalition. He literally did not build that. That was a Reagan coalition that George Herbert Walker Bush quickly destroyed, literally in a matter of months after he was elected. Remember the read my lips? Or even Obama. This is so much more than Obama in 2008. Obama had an extraordinarily fragile, tenuous coalition that began to unravel in 2012 and basically fell apart in 2016. By contrast, Trump increased his vote share and his coalition in every single subsequent election. He won with, he was the first Republican to win with over 300 electoral votes in 30 years in 2016. Then he won in 2020 with 7 million more votes. Well, he got 7 million more votes. Obviously, I can't say he won. And then in 2024, he got, what did you get? He got even 3 or 4 or 5 more million votes in 2024. 3 elections in a row, record. This was the single most significant Republican landslide victory in 2 generations. And how are the Republicans in the Senate responding to it? They're responding to it by telling all of you who made that happen to go F off. That's how they're responding to it. They're telling you, now that they're in the majority because of what you did, they're now telling you, go F off. I have never known a leadership that so despises their voters than Republicans. They're responding by frustrating, sabotaging, and obstructing Trump's cabinet picks in a way they never even came close to doing with Biden. That is how they're responding. And can you tell I feel your frustration? I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Did they do this with Biden? Did Johnny Ernst do this with Biden's picks? Of course not. Why? Swamp creatures don't obstruct those appointed to grow and empower the swamp. Write that down. Swamp creatures don't obstruct those appointed to grow and empower the swamp. So why should we be surprised at what we're seeing? Why should we expect the swamp to approve those chosen to drain the swamp? Now, the good news is, again, you're rising to the occasion. You are standing up to this tyranny. It does look like they're backing down. Johnny Ernst, who must, by the way, I don't care how she votes on this, she's got to be primaried right away. She's nothing more than Mitt Romney in high heels, okay? But it does look like she's backing down on her opposition to Pete Hegseth. But what I want to do for you, well, and, again, we could talk about that more as we go along in your questions. But what I want to do for you in this video is I want to keep all of our eyes on the prize. I want to show you what is really happening, not just in DC, but in the entire world, what's really happening, because I think it's going to make you realize just how small and irrelevant and pathetic these snot-nosed obstructionist rhinos really are. Take a look at this headline. Look at that. Read that. Isn't that gorgeous? What is that, from December 5th? So it was just yesterday. By the way, happy St. Nicholas to all my fellow Orthodox friends. I believe Catholics and Anglicans celebrate on this day as well. My youngest son is Nicholas. So beautiful day in preparation for Christmas. Look at that headline. Donald Trump isn't in power yet, and he's already changing the world. Donald Trump isn't in power yet, and he's already changing the world. Something happened yesterday that kind of flew under a lot of people's radar that's bigger than anything anyone seems to realize. President-elect Trump has just appointed the venture capitalist and anti-woke crusader. It's a big plus for him, David Sachs, as the White House AI and crypto czar. Now, if you don't know, David Sachs was an early member of PayPal alongside Elon Musk. So they're good bros, they're tech bros. And Trump has tapped him for a new role that Trump has created to help lead the administration's policy on AI and crypto, which will include developing a legal framework for the crypto industry. And I think it's a very, very significant role. And I think this is a hugely significant moment to really understand what's happening with what you did on November 5th. And literally, I'm not kidding, literally the cosmic ramifications. Here's what Trump said when he announced it. Quote, in this important role, David will guide policy for the administration in artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, two areas. Where did I miss? Two areas critical to the future of American competitiveness. David will focus on making America the clear global leader in both areas. He will safeguard free speech online and steer us away from big tech bias and censorship. Boom, boom, and boom. Gang, this is huge. This is bigger than I think any commentator out there realizes. That's why you come to this channel. So make sure you smack that bell and subscribe button. You're going to get a perspective here that's bigger and broader and more cosmic than anything you're getting anywhere else. The ramifications of what Trump just said there simply cannot be exaggerated. Based on what I've heard Elon Musk talking about, Vivek talking about, JD Vanek talking about, this is, when you put all that together, this is absolutely astonishing. And again, realizing what happened yesterday is going to help you relativize all this, all of this ultimately irrelevant nonsense that's going on in the swamp and that's taking up everybody's time and energy that could be used for so many other constructive things. So let me get into that. And that's, frankly, that's what Trump seems to be doing. He doesn't seem to be that bothered by what's going on. He's almost kind of laughing at just watching the swamp creatures writhe around in the mud. I want to unpack this, more or less, this statement he just gave yesterday to show you how literally world-changing this is. Again, Trump wrote, in this important role, David will guide policy for the administration in artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, two areas critical in the future of American competitiveness. Now, we've got to understand what AI and crypto ultimately represent. We're going to set the stage here because the stage itself is huge. They represent literally the rise of a new world. Now, you've got to get that. You've got to get there. You want to understand the significance of the historical moment we're in. AI and crypto represent the rise of a new world, a world commonly referred to as cyberspace, or what's now being more and more referred to as cyber civilization. One of the ways of being able to conceptualize the significance of cyberspace or cyber civilization is by comparing it with the three stages of our planetary development. This comes from the techno-futurist Kevin Kelly, who founded Wired magazine. Many of you may read Wired magazine. He's a good theorist. He's confused on politics, but that's okay. He, along with a number of others, schematized the Earth's development in three stages. So first, we've got the geosphere, right? So that's the actual creation, formation of the planet. And then we've got what emerges out of that is the biosphere, where we get air and plants and vegetation and, you know, photons and light and all that, and an inhabitable planet. And then increasingly, we're going into a third stage of development. And this is what's probably, for me, it's simply the most profound. And this is what the Catholic philosopher and visionary Teilhard de Chardin called the noosphere. Noosphere. If you're listening by way of our 20 million downloads, the noosphere is a philosophical concept that describes the sphere of human consciousness and mental agency. So you've got the geosphere, you've got the biosphere. Now you've got the noosphere, the sphere of human consciousness, mental activity. And it focuses on its influence on the biosphere. So the human mind, human intelligence, becomes every bit an active agent in the development of the planet as geology and biology have been. So we've got literal geology, biology, and mind working together, right? The word noosphere comes from the Greek word nous, for you classical geeks out there, which means mind or intellect. So we get the word noetic from that. And what many theorists have noticed is that the digital revolution that's created cyberspace, because that's basically what cyberspace is. Cyberspace is the total network of a vast interconnected digital environment, the whole global network of interdependent information technology infrastructures, telecommunications networks, computer processing systems. This digital world, this telecosmos, is the noosphere. It is the third stage in our planetary development. And this corresponds to the notion of what some are calling the third industrial revolution. You may have heard of that. Some call it a fourth. I like third just because I think it schematizes well with the various planetary stages of development. So the first industrial revolution started in the late 18th century with the mechanization of the textile industry. You may have remember this in your history books, but so a textile is a material made of fibers, threads, filaments. It could be used to create fabric, cloth. That's where the word textile comes from. The word textile comes from the Latin word textilis, which means woven. You get paper out of that as well, and that's why we often refer to a book as a text. That's where it comes from. So because of the parchment or the woven fabric that's used to be written on it. So textiles, everyday items, clothing, furniture, beddings, carpets. These were the first things in the 19th century to be factorized. These were the first items to, as it were, be moved out of the house, out of domestic production, into newly created factories for mass production. So first you have the transition from the private domestic, assembly, as it were, to a factory assembly. That's the 18th century. The second industrial revolution starts in the 19th century, bleeds in the 20th century, and that's the rise of what's called mass production, right? Like the Ford assembly lines. So that's where you start to see the mass production of the factory itself. That's where you see the mass production of the factory itself. So the first revolution is the introduction of the factory. The second revolution is the scaling of the factory, where everything now gets factorized. Everything gets mass produced. That goes all the way into the mid-20th century. And what's so interesting with these two revolutions is that they're both radically physical, right? They're radically material. They're radically mechanical. And as such, they're subject to two very severe limitations. Two, you might even say, frustrations. So first and foremost, you can only scale in accordance with the available geographic space. What's that? The Malthusian trap it's referred. So an economy can only grow as far as the space you have. So that's why civilizations will tend to try to move out and increase and expand and maraud and so forth, so as to grow their economies. And we thought we could overcome that with, or at least in part overcome that with the skyscraper, when we could start building upwards. So we're no longer dependent on horizontal space. Now we can go into the sky, vertical space. But it turns out, again, you can't build one building on top of another. You can only build, in one location. You're still geographically limited. The Malthusian trap has still not been fully overcome by the second industrial revolution. So our megacities are proof that the industrialized world can certainly build big. It certainly can build high, but it can only build so wide. And it can only build so high. It can only build so far. There are limitations of scale to the industrialized world. But the second problem is that all industrialized endeavors are subject to the debilitating processes of entropy, right? You build a factory, you build a machine, And immediately you got to worry about upkeep. Immediately you got to attend to things breaking down, right? This is entropy. This is second law of thermodynamics. Things don't break up, they break down, right? So you have to deal with all kinds of degenerative processes, from rust and decay to all kinds of malfunctions. And then you have to deal with all the, just the political and economic regulative aspects of the industrialized world: insurance, permits, zoning laws, property taxes, all these sort of. So these two revolutions, first and second industrial revolutions, are very much like geosphere and biosphere, where we create the industry and then we scale the factory so as to create an industrialized world, but it has tremendous limitations. But now we've got a third industrial revolution happening that I think even goes beyond the industrial. And it represents the rise of a new world unlike anything we have ever seen. And this is the world that President Trump is about to make a reality like nothing we ever imagined. I'm going to show you exactly how. But first, if you are just joining us, if you want to ask me your questions because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on that link below. Join any one of our levels of support, and you have access to our own virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them right here on this live stream. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Also, our country witnessed a moment obviously we'll never forget. We saw a man get shot, stand up, fist in the air, and in defiance scream, "Fight," right? Well, sadly, too many of us have lost our fight, and that's exactly how the globalists want it. They want us weak. They want us out of shape and full of estrogen and microplastics. This is why we're so excited to partner with Chalk. Chalk offers a whole lineup of products formulated to increase your energy, your focus, to detoxify your body, and based on clinical studies, boost your testosterone. In fact, the ingredients in the Chalk Male Vitality Stack have been clinically studied to boost free testosterone by 87% in just 21 days. Unlike with gimmicky vegetable pills or powder, you're going to feel the difference, and they'll have the clinical studies to back it up. And right now, you can get 25% off your Chalk subscription for life. You heard that right. Don't let that just go by. 25% off your Chalk subscription for life. Just go to chalk.com. That's spelled CHOQ.com. Use the promo code Turley. You're going to get 25% off any subscription for life, and you can cancel anytime. Chalk is made in America, and their all-American customer service team is standing by to assist you. So it is time to make men's vitality great again. So get Chalk today. That's chalk.com, CHOQ.com. Promo code Turley. You can text or call them at 50-CHALK, CHOQ 3000. That is 50-CHOQ 3000. They're awesome. Now, what we're seeing today is the rise of what's being called the third industrial revolution. This is the digital revolution. And the digital revolution has introduced a new dimension of reality called cyberspace, where now the mechanical, the material, the physical, the spatial, they're all transferred and translated into tiny electronic bits of information and stored, transferred, and utilized in the form of computational energy. So let me give you a fun example here. Guys, do we have some B-roll? Yeah. All right. So gang, take a look at this beauty. All right. Your Patriot professor, Dr. Steve, used to work here. This is the absolutely beautiful, what they're doing right now is right there. What they're doing there, I used to do. That is the beautiful George Peabody Library at the Peabody Conservatory of Music at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. That is where I used to work when I was a student there. It's absolutely beautiful, stunning building. It's called the Cathedral of Books, actually. It's frankly my favorite building in the nation. I love going there. And I used to work there part-time as a student. I used to go in there and study, or just even contemplate and so forth. Now, the library boasts over 300,000 books. It's beautiful. It's glorious. was built in the mid-19th century. It opened in 1865. Its opening was actually delayed by the Civil War, but it's really one of the wonders of American architecture. Look it up. It's just, you could read about it. It's absolutely wonderful. 300,000 books. But guess what? I am holding in my hand a smartphone. And this is the product of the digital revolution. This is a single node of the cyberspace, as it were. Do you want to take a guess as to how many books I have access to with this? Or you do as well? You can look it up. Approximately 100 million. 100 million tiny, teeny, teeny, micro little books out there that you can press on, and all of a sudden, like a big bang, all of a sudden coming, all the data that's micro stored, infinitesimally micro stored, and there all of a sudden comes up to 12-point font if you want it. The older I get, I think I need 14. Now, again, this is not an either or. I'm not a techno superiorist, supremacist, right? It's not an either. Nothing is going to replace Peabody Library. And when I want just aesthetic inspiration, or when I want to just actually hold a particular book in my hands, which I love to do, I like reading physical books, I will go to that library. So it's not an either or. But the point here is that there is now another level of physical digital reality that is superseding the industrialized world, very much like the noosphere is superseding the biosphere. Now, why is all of this so significant? Well, remember, there were two key limitations and problems that an industrialized world has. Do you remember that? The problems of scaling limitations, right? Can only build so high and build so wide. And entropy. And it all starts breaking down the moment you start building. Well, guess what two problems cyberspace overcomes? You got it, right? So the first key to the digital revolution is its unprecedented level of scalability. In 1965, the American businessman and entrepreneur Gordon Moore forecasted that the number of components on an integrated circuit would double every single year. It's known as Moore's Law. It's revolutionary. Digital technology has the characteristic of continually transforming itself, progressively branching out and boosting productivity by 100-fold every single year. So there's the potential for limitless scalability in cyberspace. And then, of course, because cyberspace, remember, by the way, before I leave that, how many books do I have access here? I mean, the scalability is stunning. I mean, we're not far from one day having access to a billion. I think there's 200 million, about 200 million books in circulation today. And we have access, I believe, to at least half of them online. And then, of course, because cyberspace lives in the cloud, as it were, it largely transcends the physical debilitating processes of entropy. So we were talking about this with Bitcoin yesterday, when Bitcoin hit 100,000 for the first time. MicroStrategy CEO Michael Saylor makes this argument all the time. Whenever you invest money into something, you're looking for what's called a long-term store of value. So you want to plant your money into something that's not only going to keep your money, you want to plant your money into something that's going to grow your money. The problem is that with all the assets and industries that are available to us invest in the old industrialized order, right, from the first and second industrial revolution, they're all subject to the laws of entropy. So you buy a building to invest in, right? And all of a sudden, what do you have to do immediately? You have to worry about upkeep, insurance, renting the rooms, landscaping, parking permits, zoning laws, property taxes, service taxes. This is the case with every single investment. You're constantly battling the degenerative processes of entropy, which all bleed money. They're all they all place exorbitant costs on the investment. But then along comes a new dimension of reality called cyberspace. And suddenly we realize that we're encountering a world, a telecosm, that largely transcends those entropic degenerative forces. You can invest in something like Bitcoin, hit 100,000 yesterday, went down a little bit, good time to buy. Don't give advice. I don't give investment advice. But and you have long-term store of value that keeps and grows your money, but without the entropic degenerative costs that plague traditional real estate and stocks investing. So this is why Bitcoin is not just the future of money, it's the future of investment. And it's why people like Saylor and Elon Musk and Donald Trump believe it's going to reach heights of wealth that have been otherwise inconceivable. Again, precisely because of its technological scalability. So the two key characteristics of the digital cosmos, or the cyber world, infinite scalability and entropic immunity, play off of each other. They work together. And you see that with the library as well. I don't just have access to 200 I don't just have access to 100 million books via this smartphone, but because they're on the cloud, they don't get destroyed. They can theoretically last forever. Peabody Library, I love it, but it can burn down like the library in Alexandria. It can burn down and all those books would be lost forever. But because I've got access now to books on the cloud, they transcend fire. It's really fascinating stuff. All right, so that sets the stage for us. In terms of where we are historically, we are in the midst of the third industrial revolution. Again, some call it the fourth. That's fine. I don't care. I like the geosphere, biosphere, noosphere schema. But we are in the midst of a digital revolution that is changing the world as we know it. And no one knows that more than one Donald J. Trump. So let's go back to what he announced yesterday. It is this important role. In this important role, David will guide policy for the administration in artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, two areas critical to the future of American competitiveness. David will focus on making America the clear global leader in both areas. He will safeguard free speech online, steer us away from big tech bias and censorship. Again, there is an entire cosmos in that tweet, or I guess it's not technically a tweet, right? But you know what I mean, on his Truth Social, on that announcement. Why AI and why crypto? Why is Trump focusing on these two industries in particular? Well, AI, artificial intelligence, it promises to basically define the 21st century much the same way electricity defined the 20th century. Actually, I want you to think of AI in many ways as the combination of electricity and oil. I'll develop that for you, but I want you to think of AI as a combination of electricity and oil, okay? So let's start with the electricity, right? So just as all of our devices got electrified, right? Literally all of our devices. I mean, even our toothbrushes have gotten electrified, okay? You take any device, you plug it into the electric outlet. We are going through a process where we can literally plug in any device and it can be cognified into a kind of artificial intelligence. Now, what that means for toothbrushes, I don't know, but there is a very important difference, nevertheless. As wonderful as electrifying our appliances is, the electrification didn't replace human intelligence, right? Electricity in and of itself doesn't necessarily replace human tasks. Sure, I mean, I could just flip a switch to turn on the lights rather than light a match to burn a candle. So it might put some candle makers out of business and matchmakers and so forth. But generally speaking, electricity doesn't get rid of human intellect or doesn't replace human intellect. What makes AI different is that it is actually replacing human activity that had required until now real human intelligence, like computing numbers or assembling gadgets in an assembly line or flying an airplane or driving a car, right? All of that now is increasingly being cognized by AI. Now, you're always going to have to. I'm not an AI alarmist. You should know that. I'm not. I remain unconvinced of arguments that AI can actually become fully conscious. I think you have to go full atheist to do. I think you have to have such an absurd materialist understanding of consciousness to go in that direction. Doesn't mean it can't be intelligent, right? But the idea of the idea of consciousness as a whole, I think that is a uniquely human thing. So I don't think we ever have to worry about that. That's my, again, you can push back on me all you want, that's fine, but I don't go there. But that said, it is going to bring in a whole nother level of the noosphere, because it is thinking, or it's replacing human thought and activity, at least in some areas. But you're always going to have the human there. You're always going to have the human that leads the AI consciously. Okay, because we alone have the conscience. But that said, I think the key to AI, when all said and done, and you heard this from Trump, is actually its geopolitical significance. And that's what a lot of people don't quite understand. And this is what's actually happening, unfolding right before our very eyes, is we're seeing a new kind of cyber geopolitics emerging. Actually, it's what venture capitalist Ian Hogarth calls AI nationalism. And this is where states are increasingly shaping their national policies to the wider AI landscape and competing against each other for AI supremacy. And here's what's so fascinating, is that at a geopolitical level, AI isn't so much the new electricity. That works for home, that works for business and so forth. No, now if you want to be able to one up your geopolitical competitor, AI isn't functioning so much as electricity anymore. How is AI functioning, right? Remember what I told you, put in your pocket? AI is functioning now as what? The new oil. So just as oil shaped international alliances and diplomacy in the past, particularly in the 19th, 20th century, so new alliances will increasingly overlap in cooperation surrounding the latest developments in AI. And we're already seeing that. Russian President Vladimir Putin, back in 2017, he argued that the nation that masters AI first is the one that will control the world. He who masters AI controls the world. And so what that means is that AI nationalism is basically giving rise to a very real kind of AI arms race, particularly between the United States and China. And again, the notion here is that the nation that develops the most advanced AI technology is the one that's going to enjoy the greatest economic, political, and military benefits over all other nations. So the Brookings Institute recently published a piece that argues that whoever controls AI by 2030, they're basically going to rule the century. There's no going back from that. Now think about it. I mean, you could play all kinds of games with it, but imagine you had an AI that could figure out the ultimate business model, right? Again, I think AI right now can only just read studies and synthesize them and put forward some interesting ideas. It can't conduct a study. AI cannot. That's going to be the human, right, conscious level. But AI can certainly help synthesize and put together mass amount of information that would take you years to put together, and it could do it in 10 minutes, or if that, right? So again, it's the same thing: 300,000 books versus 100 million, and in the palm of my hand. So, what if you could figure out the ultimate business model? What if you were able to find, what if AI could determine how to beat all other businesses out there in virtually any industry? And then you pour all your capital into building businesses based on that AI. Well, again, theoretically, that nation would have a massive economic and financial advantage over any other nation. Or what if you had an AI that could figure out all the defensive weaknesses of a rival nation and even possibly neutralize their nuclear capabilities? Right? Well, then you would have an immediate implosion in the balance of geopolitical power. He who owns AI will own the world, as it were. So currently, as we speak, China is spending trillions of dollars on AI research. Many believe they're far outspending the U.S. and Europe, perhaps even the U.S. and Europe combined. And they are absolutely determined to win this arms race hands down, and thereby not be merely the global leader, but in many respects, the leader of the globe. right? The global leader of AI becomes the leader of the globe. That is what President Trump wants for America. Trump wants the United States to be the global leader of AI and thereby lead the globe. And that is exactly what David Sachs is being tasked to help bring about as the new AI and crypto czar. But it is the crypto side of things that perhaps represents the single most world-changing development of them all. Wait until you see this. But first, you have got to stop putting off what you know you need to do, especially if you've been a regular on this channel. If you have not secured the deed to your home as of yet, you need to click on that link below right now and protect yourself and your loved ones. Gang, I was personally shown how easy it is to access the deed to my house, and not just access it, but actually change it. The deed to your home is really the only document that proves you own it. But the problem is that the deeds to all our homes are now online, and criminals are free to find your deed, forge your signature, refile as the new owner of your home, take out tons of loans, and then they stick you with all the debt. But that's where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in. Gang, they're amazing. Home Title Lock gives you the peace of mind that the deed to your home is absolutely and completely protected. Click on that link below right now and use promo code Turley. Promo code Turley Talks. Then all you got to do is enter your address for your no obligation home title scan to see if you've already been a victim of deed theft. It's a $100 value, absolutely, totally free with my promo code Turley Talks. Gang, do not wait for the worst to happen, only to regret you didn't do something when you could have. Do what I've done. Do what countless patriots have done. Click on that link below right now and secure your home today. They're amazing. Home Title Lock. Absolutely. I mean, you see them everywhere. They're incredible. All right. So why is crypto so central for making America literally the center of the universe? Again, I want to defer back to MicroStrategy CEO Michael Saylor and what he's noted about the strategic geopolitical significance of crypto dominance, particularly Bitcoin, because I haven't heard a lot of crypto theorists talk about this before, but Saylor's right on with this. So we can think of money in two ways, right? So we could think of money as a fiat currency. So the currency used to buy things daily. So dollars, for example, for us. And we could think of money in terms of long-term investments and store of value. In other words, this is where you want to keep your money, grow your money, so you invest in stocks, bonds, real estate, what have you. Now, if you think it through, the United States right now already obviously dominates the fiat currency market as the world's reserve currency currently, right? Now, I know, and we cover it on this channel, at least once a month. I know that status of the nation's default currency is a bit tenuous at the moment, with the BRICS nations openly talking about trying to ditch the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Saudi Arabia is playing with ditching the petrodollar. But that said, we do have to distinguish between how much a currency is kept as a share of the reserves of central banks around the globe, which has decreased rather significantly, versus how much it continues to be used in everyday global financial transactions. And that's where the dollar still, to this day, despite 4 years of bumbling Biden, it still remains very, very strong. In other words, while nations are clearly seeking alternatives to the dollar in terms of purchases, the U.S. dollar still dominates overwhelmingly as the currency by which global populations lend or borrow or save. And it remains the dominant currency by which nations even measure their own assets and debt. Virtually every nation in the world right now prices its goods in accordance with the dollar. It continues to be the single most stable, reliable currency on the planet. Even the Chinese yuan is basically priced according to the dollar. So even though the dollar is being, at least in part, marginalized, at least to an extent, among the BRICS bloc member nations in particular, the dollar is and will remain very strong for the foreseeable future. Everyone admits that at this point, even though it's going to have at least some competitors and counterpoints. Nevertheless, it will continue to dominate the currency wars, as it were, for the foreseeable future. But what will that mean if the United States not only dominates currency, but also turns around and dominates the Bitcoin and cryptocosm? Now, remember, currency domination is only half the equation of money, right? The other part of the equation is what? It's investment and a reliable store of value, right? So you need to buy things, but you also need to store your money and grow it, right? Simple. What's the key to crypto? What's the key to Bitcoin? What's Michael Saylor been arguing since 2020? Because of its digitality. It's the only long-term store of value that keeps and grows your money without what? Who remembers? Without what? Right? What can this do that Peabody Library can't? It can access a cloud that has books that will never burn. Bitcoin is the only long-term store of value that keeps and grows your money, but without the entropic, degenerative costs that plague traditional real estate and stock investments. Right? You can't. Bitcoin is impervious to all of those entropic, degenerative forces. It's totally impervious to it, just like the books on the cloud. And so, inevitably, given the third industrial revolution of the telecosm of cyberspace, inevitably, the world is going to transfer its investment capital into the world of Bitcoin and the cryptocosm, which means that if the United States dominates the cryptocosm, we are then in a position to dominate both the world's default reserve currency and the world's default store of value. In other words, Trump is now currently positioning the United States to be, in effect, the permanent financial center of the universe and of this rising telecosmic civilization. And I'm not even I am not remotely exact. It is not a coincidence that the one man more than any other who's planning and engineering interplanetary civilization is hanging out with whom? Who is he I mean, Trump can't get rid of him, as he joked. You know, he basically lives at Mar-a-Lago now. No matter how many planets we inhabit, we are going to need some kind of financial center, at least at this point, to make that happen. And that is precisely where Trump is positioning the United States. But it gets even better, gets even more astonishing. You ready for this? Can't stop winning. Too much winning, right? Let's go back to Trump's tweet or post here. In this important role, David will guide policy for the administration in artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, two areas critical to the future of American competitiveness. So you get that focus there. David will focus on making America the clear global leader in both areas. But then listen to this. He will safeguard free speech online and steer us away from big tech bias and censorship. Now, it's that last part that's so key here. And this really represents, to me, the new civilizationalist populist dimension of all of this. Technology obviously is a two-edged sword. We all know that. It could be used to free us. It could be used to enslave us, right? And that enslavement we've seen with big tech and its censorship efforts. But again, it's a two-edged sword. There's another side to technology. And that other side is being led by the rise of what's called the new tech right. You need to know this because this is going to be huge for the future. This group of people, the new tech right. This is a group of ultra wealthy, ultra innovative tech pioneers who are all in on building a new civilizationalist world dedicated to faith, family, and freedom. So, of course, this involves Elon, who's made procreation, interestingly enough, procreation and demographic renaissance and renewal centerpiece of his concern. This involves Vivek. This involves Peter Thiel, This involves Balaji Srinivasan. And of course, it involves J.D. Vance. He's been one of the leaders of the new tech right. In fact, here's what JD said about David Sachs, so Trump's new AI crypto czar. This is what JD said about him. They're good buds. Just before the election, when he was getting interviewed by Joe Rogan.
My closest friends in the tech world is David Sachs. And Dave and I have talked about this because we were both like, it's funny, we were both sort of critical of Trump in 2016, but we came, at that criticism from a right of center perspective. And both of us by 2020 were like, this crazy bullshit has to end. Trump is our guy. And maybe not only is he our guy, but maybe he was like the only one who could have turned the tide against this insanity. And David, I mean, he has become so far out there, and I admire it in a lot of ways. But then sometimes I see what David says, and I'm like, dude, are you going to be like welcome in?
Like, what is he saying
in your neighborhood? Well, I mean, have you ever interviewed David Sachs?
No.
Well, I mean, he's just he's very anti-woke. He's very, very into what I would call foreign policy realism. Like, why are we starting these stupid wars all over the world? Our foreign policy should be more pro-peace. And it's just crazy to me because he's so inflammatory about it that and by the way, I love it. Right. I agree with what a lot of what David says. And even when I disagree, I know he's a smart guy, but he is just saying, look, I don't give a shit. If you're going to come after me, but I'm going to say what's on my mind. And I think, a lot of people are going in that direction, which is fundamentally a good thing, is people are sick of being told what to think. And like the First Amendment, obviously, it's a legal document that talks about the role of government in censorship and sort of prohibits government censorship. But it's also a sort of ethic and an attitude that is endemic, or I hope is, to American society, which is we're going to think what we want. We're going to say what we want to. That's an important First Amendment value, even though it has nothing to do with the First Amendment as a legal document itself. And a lot of people are sick of being told what to think.
Now, make no mistake, what we're seeing here with what he just said there is the rise of a new civilizationalist right in its fullest sense. Now, what this new tech right of Trump and Musk and Peter Thiel and Vivek and Robert Kennedy, what they all represent is akin to Aristotle's notion of aristopopulism. So Aristotle noted that you're always going to have an elite. You're always going to have an aristocracy of some kind. It's right. Jordan Peterson always talks about the Pareto principle. You're always going to have a top 1%. Even socialist communist nations have leaders at the top. There's always going to be people with the IQ or the intellect or the drive or a combination thereof to kind of get to the top. You're always going to have your top football players, top basketball players. You're always going to have your key 1%. You're always going to have your aristocracy. But the key here, what Aristotle recognized, is that you want an aristocracy that uses their power and wealth to enact and realize and bring into being the values, interests, and concerns of the people. For Aristotle, that is the healthiest, most balanced society. That's the kind of society that builds George Peabody libraries, right? Yeah, you guys have the B-roll? Yeah, I love this. I mean, look at how beautiful the cathedral of books, right? People want libraries. And so the aristocracy, the very wealthy, and George Peabody was extremely wealthy, helped to build and realize those values, interests, concerns. Now, by contrast, a society that has an aristocracy that despises the people, the Marie Antoinettes, right? That hates the people. That aristocracy is an oligarchy. What we have today in power, well, soon to be gone. This is an aristocracy that rules in accordance with its own values, interests, and concerns, often that disdain the people and that care only about their own power and wealth. That's a hellhole. That's a tyranny. But a society where the people say, screw them, let's take them down, let's rise up and bring out the guillotine, like in the French Revolution, well, then you're only going to get chaos and mob rule, and that's not much better either. So what you want, according to Aristotle, is you want a balance. You want a harmony between the rich the powerful, and the wider population. That harmony comes when the rich and powerful use their wealth and power to enact and realize and help flourish the values, interests, and concerns of the people. That is exactly what you just heard JD talking about. That is exactly what the new tech right is all about. That's exactly what Trump, and it took JD a little time, and even Sachs a little time to recognize what Trump is all about. And even Elon Musk, that's what Trump is ultimately all about. They represent a new, rising, civilizationalist world where America is at the center of literally cosmic finance and where everyone can be wealthy, precisely because there are no scaling limitations to the technologies that produce that wealth. Trump is leading our nation into a new cyber-linked civilization led by a thoroughly anti-woke, pro-traditionalist aristocracy that literally has limitless potential. So what does all of that mean? What it means is screw Johnny Ernst. Screw the rhinos. Screw all the nonsense that's happening right now on Twitter, on the Twitter feed in response, or X feed, in response to all of the absurd, ridiculous obstructionism that we're seeing in the halls of Congress right now. It literally means nothing. Nothing. How many senators can you name from the 20th century? How many senators can you name, prior to 2010 that were serving prior to 2010? Well, half of them are probably still there, right? Think about it. How many senators can you name from the 19th century? They're irrelevant. They are nothing. They are Jurassic lags that are stuck in their old industrialized swampy tar pits going the way of the dodo bird. We are the future. We are the new rising civilization that none of them can even remotely stop. Keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on the renewal, not the rot, because a new conservative age is rising, and it's going to be even more glorious than any one of us could have ever imagined. Over to you. Over to you. As our moderators assemble your questions, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats tyranny, just click on that link below. Join any one of our levels of support. You have access to our own virtual platform, our censorship-free platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Also, each of us, all of us, we all have an opportunity to finally stop big tech and government overreach. Patriots are, as we speak, reclaiming our privacy, and you have no better way to protect yourself than with SLNT. That's short for silent. Silent's Faraday products block all incoming and outgoing signals so no one can get their hands on your information. From key FOBs to phones and laptops, simply place your device inside, close the sleeve, and voila, you're off the grid. And you are safeguarded from unauthorized access. Go silent today by clicking on that link below or going to slnt.com/Turley to save 15% off plus free shipping on all qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and secure your privacy. Again, that's slnt.com/Turley for 15% off and free shipping on all qualified orders. slnt.com/Turley. All right, what do we got, Josh? What do we got? Josh, Micah, Steve. All right, what do we got? What are your opinions on the martial law declaration in Singapore? Oh, and I think you mean South Korea and the legislature 190-0 decision to overturn the declaration. I looked at it when it first happened. When it first broke, if I recall, it was in the afternoon here. And there was so much fog of war around it. And it was so hard to quite understand. And I don't all of that's to say, I didn't know what to make of it. I was going to do a video on it since it was breaking news, but I thought I'd let it play out a little bit before and gather some information on it. And I haven't, to be honest, I haven't followed up too much on it. Now, this president, I'm forgetting his name, but he is the recon I've got in Japan is the Japanese tend to like him. He's a center right president, and he tends to leave Japan alone, which the Japanese like with Korea. South Korea can be very, as far as the Japanese are concerned, South Korea can be very mean, and they feel very manipulative, bringing up the wounds from World War II, which are used often for political leverage to kind of bully Japan geopolitically. They really liked him because he didn't do that. He tended to want to get along and work together and grow and increase their trade. But he's not popular in Korea, and I don't know if he's going to survive this. So he may already be gone, and that seems to be par for the course in South Korea. South Korea's politics are extremely tumultuous and turbulent. So, but that's about it. I don't really know anything to that. Steve, since we have Diablos in the Senate, Democrats on all but label, if you don't know, looking to scuttle as much of Trump's agenda as possible. How do we fight back? In the end, that's what I really hope this video would be for you, is to keep your eye on the big prize. It's already baked in the cake. We're leaving the second industrial revolution. We're going to the third industrial revolution. We're leaving behind sort of the Bretton Woods system. Some will call it we're still in it, but we're in Bretton Woods 3.0. We're moving into a completely new civilizationless world that's going to leave so much of these old, tired 20th century industrialized politics behind. So again, this is for cabinet picks. In the end, Trump's going to get who he wants. He doesn't seem to be that worried about it. But my, oh my, I mean, again, what blows me away is how suicidal a party has to be, how utterly suicidal a party has to be to so despise their own voters. Johnny Ernst hates her voters. There's no other way of being able to explain it. She hates her voters. She despises her voters. She despises conservative Iowa values. She despises them. She's woke. She's liberal. She's pathetic. And then what? But I'm going to throw it back on us. Why? Oh, deep red Iowa and deep red Texas and deep red South Carolina and deep red Oklahoma do you keep sending us rhinos? Why do you do that? You don't have to, but you do. Stop. This all stops when you stop. Now, I do think she should be primaried, particularly Pete Hegseth. I don't care how she votes. The very fact that she's caused so much trouble, she should be primaried. And anyone who's causing trouble with Pete should be primaried immediately. I mean, and we'll be done with this. But again, careful who you primary with. You don't want to replace one rhino with another rhino, or one Diablo with another Diablo. But in the end, I mean, it's just frustrating because you want them to be celebrating with you, and instead, all they do is, hey, they despise you more than they despise Joe Biden's picks. Let that hit you. Just let it hit you. It's insane. Not a single Democrat, by the way, not a single one voted against a single pick of Biden. These people voted for Pete Buttigieg. Right? These people voted for Merrick Garland. But they won't vote for Pete Hegseth? F them. Absolutely F them. RT Corp, Dr. Turley, in reference to Trump removing 15,000 transgender service members. With the military in a recruiting crisis, plus a retention crisis, plus the kicking out of 9,400 members for refusing the jab, who he said he's going to immediately bring back if they want to come back, plus effectively breaking signed contracts. As a service member, I personally don't agree with it. And morally, optically, because I thought the 9,400 COVID jab purge was stupid, I feel compelled to think the same for this. Thoughts? No, I don't buy it, ROT. I think you're mixing. I think you're comparing apples with oranges. I think Trump believes that trans service people are a distraction to the military, and that they are inextricably linked to the recruiting crisis. That's where I think, in many ways, Pete Hegseth is all about. It's all about resolving that crisis. So I just think you're comparing apples to oranges. What they did with the jab, that was insane. That was nuts. It just goes to show how incompetent the people are that are in positions of power under Biden, and how incompetent he was. But no, I think he feels like this is a necessary part of de-wokeifying our military, and as long as those service members are allowed to remain, what he would say, I think, is the virus of wokeness will remain, and that he's trying to exorcise that from the military. But again, we'll see. I definitely appreciate your perspective, certainly as someone in the military, and thank you for your service. Eric the Red, for the good Dr. Steve, pardon for getting a little personal, but I saw on Instagram that your birthday is either the 29th or 30th. It is the 29th. That's correct. In the Orthodox Church, it is unfortunately, it is the commemoration of the slaughter of the innocents, when Herod killed all children under the age of 2 in Bethlehem. Which is it? So there it is. Is it the 55 mark? It is the 56. Want to wish you extra happy holidays, because because lucky for you, your birthday counts as a special additional one in that mix. Yes. I'm one of the few, I think, that have always enjoyed having my birthday around Christmas, because I attended, even though I didn't get a lot of gifts, the celebrations were nice because it was always with the gathered family. We're usually still together on the 29th. So it's always been nice to be able to gather with extended family for my birthday. But yes, it's the 29th, and I will be the 5-6. I'm going beyond double nickels into 56 territory. And I'm very blessed to have all you celebrate it with all of you. Vlad, what do you think of Syria? What do you think the Kremlin would do if they lose those bases in Syria? And how will they strike back at the West? Oh, yeah. So at this point, I think that Russia and Iran they do seem to be stabilizing the situation a bit against sort of it's a de facto NATO alliance that is reignited the fighting that's been dormant for the last 4 years, and so it is NATO for the United States and Turkey, but I do think Israel is behind this as well. Putin has made it clear Assad's not going anywhere. Tehran has made it clear Assad's not going anywhere. They are absolutely 100% dedicated to keeping Assad in and NATO out of Syria as much as possible. So yes, I mean, they're already doing targeted bombing strikes. We'll have to see what happens with Trump in the next month, with Trump and Ukraine. I don't know if you caught some of the discussion between Tucker and Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia. Very fascinating. But I mean, and he's brilliant, by the way. Sergei Lavrov is brilliant. There's a reason why he's been in the Kremlin, I think, 20 years now. He's made it clear. Look, we're good. We're fine. We got the 20% of the Ukraine we want, the Russian-speaking part of the Ukraine. If you guys want us to, we'll take more. That's our Clausewitzian form of fighting battles. Is we'll just grind whatever you throw our way down, and we will just inch forward closer. And Russia has never ever lost a domestic war. No country has been able in modern politics. No country has been able to defeat Russia in taking territory away from it, just as Napoleon and Hitler. I mean, once Russia has its fortified positions, it's not going anywhere. So if that ends, then Russia's going to be free to push back. I don't know what Trump's going to do. Trump did not seem very interested in Syria. He wanted to get rid of ISIS, and he's actually he boasted he worked with Putin to get rid of ISIS because Putin's no friend of ISIS either. If anything, ISIS has been working more on our side to dethrone Assad. So yeah, we'll have to see. I wish I could be more clear with you on that, but I do think I think Putin has drawn a line. They are not taking down Assad, and he will use whatever forces he needs to do that. I think he has plenty of more Russian forces to do that. Iran will combine to do that. Now, again, we could see why they attacked. Because both Russia and Iran are a bit distracted right now. Russia distracted with Ukraine, and Iran still licking its wounds a bit from just kind of going tit for tat with Israel, and then just watching their Hezbollah allies in Lebanon just really get wrecked. I mean, Israel has definitely pushed back on Hezbollah big time, especially with its intelligence and its ability to kind of infiltrate inwardly, and then their assassination of Nasrallah, who was the leader of Hezbollah for 3 decades. That's pretty impressive offensive against Hezbollah. So I think Iran is a little bit licking its wounds a bit, and they saw it was a perfect opportunity to go in. And so Turkey wants to extend its influence in the region. So Erdogan's a big supporter of the rebels that are contiguously that occupy that part of Syria that's contiguously bordered against on Turkey. So anyway, we'll see. We'll have to see how it plays out. It's sad. I don't like again. I just hundreds of thousands of people have been killed over the last since now 13 years, starting 2011. So. Oh, I'm sorry, Terry. It moved and I didn't say it. I've heard that we need an interim census to readjust House districts after much migration has already taken place. But the Constitution says the census must take place every 10 years, and it doesn't look as though it makes provision for doing it any more frequently. Or am I missing something? Or would you recommend doing another census now? Yeah, I don't know the nuances of it. If there is demonstrable, I didn't see that new national holiday. What Turley Talks Day? He sent a note after the wonderful birthday wishes. I don't know the nuances of it. If it could be shown that it was botched, can you redo it? It would seem like you should be able to, particularly if it were botched. So there's talk of redoing it, and I'm all for it because it seems to be it was botched, certainly on the side of the Democrats. There's argument that Trump could have won upwards of 320 electoral votes if it was done correctly, because there was far more population growth in red states than was acknowledged, and far more population depletion in blue states than was acknowledged. But I would definitely do it after, or at least after the beginning of the mass deportation process, because we don't know how the blue states will count illegals. I don't think you're allowed to ask on the census document. Deborah, how can we support Pete Hegseth that will have impact? Well, definitely. As I understand it, definitely contact your senators and contact the senators who you're finding out are against him, like Johnny Ernst. I don't know what her deal is. This is absurd. She's only destroying her own political career. She will get Liz Cheney'd. I don't know if she's being stupid. I don't know if she's sacrificing herself for some rhino purpose. I don't know what, but it is absolutely it's beyond absurd. So I would contact them and always be respectful. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, the rhinos are proving they don't care about the people, and they're DC sewer rats through and through. Who can we get behind now to primary these rhinos in 26? So that's already going on. So Elon's basically promising the unlimited piggy bank. And he said Kash Patel was his line in the sand. Looks like Cash is going to get approved. It really is Pete. It's coming down to Pete. Because remember, if they take out Pete, then they're going to go for Tulsi next. And then they're going to go for RFK. They're not going to stop. They'll never stop, right? You have to stop them. So I think you're going to start seeing primary challengers emerge everywhere. I've noticed that there was a note that somebody may even have happened. Let me check. Somebody's about to primary Johnny Ernst in Iowa. Let's see if we've got it. Well, I'll take a look, but I think they will pop up quite organically. If anyone smells an political opportunity, they will take it. Richard, Dr. Steve, a month after the election, liberal mainstream media is still whining about it. Same old talking points. Shouldn't they be looking to 2026? Yeah, well, they're a dinosaur, organization to begin with. I mean, they're one of the victims of this new telecosm that's risen up, this new digital revolution that has decentralized and disseminated information in such a way that the information that once a privileged few had access to is now accessible to everyone. And so now you and I are in a position to fact check the fact checkers. That's why they can't survive. They've been lying all this time. Now they literally get exposed every single day. That's why, what's her name? Sunny Hostin is reading legal notices literally every episode on The View now, because they know that half the things that comes out of her mouth are a bunch of BS. They know it, so they're going to get sued, and they can get sued because everyone can see the information out there. Or this guy, this health insurance CEO is gunned down in Manhattan, and within a day, some kid in his apartment has all the data of the scooters the electronic scooters that you get on the apps. He has the electronic data on his computer. He just, what does he call it? Brush the data or whatever, and scrub the data. And he found the actual scooter the guy paid for on his smartphone via the app, and where he started, his origin, and where his destination, where it went up with. And again, he was able to outflank the New York police department just as a kid with his laptop. We have information available to us that can no longer be monopolized anymore, and that's what we call techno-populism. Is the people are empowered now to be able to make up our own minds with the same available information as CNN and MSNBC is. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, how can Biden pardon Dr. Fauci, Death Fauci, Miss Piggy Cheney, and Adam Schiff? Oh, you made me swear, Rock Dog. If they haven't been arrested, tried, and convicted of any crimes, I think the fact that they're talking about pardons for them and others proves that 2020 was a coup, a sitting president. Everything that was done in the past 4 years has been completely illegal, and they're admitting it. What do you think? Yeah, I think I talked about that yesterday in our video. I forget which one, but I do think, I mean, just the very fact that that Hunter's being pardoned for crimes that he may have committed on this exact date, January 1st, 2014, all the way to December 1st, 2024. We don't know if he may have committed a crime or not, but we certainly know when he would have, had he done it, right? So, no, I'm with you on both ends. I think it's a tacit admission of guilt. Can you be preemptively pardoned? I have not heard of any. I guess what they do is they cite Nixon. They cite Nixon as an example of that, because Nixon had not been impeached yet. And so Ford was trying to stave off an impeachment. So that might be their again, hasn't, I don't think it was challenged constitutionally. So we'll have to look and see. But that's part of the pedigree that goes along. That's the advantage that goes along with being part of the swamp, being part of the establishment. Is you, by definition, above the law. That's why people become part of the establishment to begin with, for all the benefits, for their own power and influence. Affluence, I should say. Vaughn, Dr. Steve, just how deep do you believe the intelligence communities compromise our legacy media? Is this a worldwide phenomenon? I think so. I do. I mean, it's going to be different here and there. Certainly with, well, so how deep? I think it's at its core. I do. I think it's absolutely at its core. I don't know if, I mean, there's, I think there's obviously there's going to be some true believers there. To the extent, so I'm working this out right now, but one of the ways that the Roman Empire flourished was through religion. It was through the ideology of Caesar worship. And basically Caesar was the ultimate priest who sacrificed on your behalf. And then as a token of gratitude, you sacrificed to Caesar and on behalf of Caesar. And you go all the way down the line through your social hierarchy of everyone basically doing that. And that had a way of keeping society cohesive with a common morality and ethic and a common social imaginary that didn't require tyranny. It didn't require, I mean, like a cyber tyranny in 1984 where they're watching your every move. People complied with those in power voluntarily through the mechanism of cult, through the mechanism of religion and ideology. So I think there are true believers. I think that's part of what the intelligence community has been able to do is create kind of a cultural Marxist woke mentality that plays itself out automatically, that doesn't need intelligence community interference, direct interference to make work, as it were. That said, I mean, we saw it with the Twitter files. I mean, we got access to the text messaging, the Slack messaging, and so forth, of all of these FBI agents that sheep dipped. So they were supposedly discharged from their national security agency. And then lo and behold, where are they working? They're working right in the heart of Silicon Valley, in Twitter and Facebook. There were so many working in Twitter, so many former FBI agents that they had their own Slack channel and onboarding process. And we know one, Jim Baker, who was at the heart of the Russian collusion fraud fabrication. And he was also at the heart of killing and suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop. So he was behind the Hunter Biden, he was behind the Russian collusion when he was working at the FBI, and then he was behind the Hunter Biden laptop suppression when he was at, I believe, at Twitter. So, so just right there, just in terms of social media, which is part of the legacy media, I would say, can be at least. Yeah, you see it very explicitly. So no, I think they're there. I think they're at the very, very heart. And I just think that, I just think their days are done. I mean, there's lag. They still are there. But like I tried to show you in this live stream, we're just moving into a very different world where all of those shenanigans they don't really have a place. They could have a place. We could create a kind of, Chinese surveillance system. We could do that. That's what I mean. Technology is a two-edged sword, but fortunately we've got the right edge, looks like, with the new tech right rising. I just don't, they're dead. They are steadfastly opposed to any kind of intelligence community interference in their enterprises, which involve media, the new media. So, Terry, a Yale Law School student this morning said Republicans have the Senate permanently because the Democrats have lost all their popular incumbents in red states. Do you agree with their assessment? That is neat. I have somebody sent me an article on that. that we're looking at the permanent Republican Senate majority, that in the elections coming up, at least for the next generation, there's really no way Democrats can get back power. Our good friend Jack over at Red Eagle Politics is arguing that right now. Republicans have got power, at least probably for the next generation, for another 20 years. Given rhinos, you're almost like, who cares, right? But at least they're not woke. At least they're not going to be pushing all this absurd. They're making Puerto Rico the 51st state. Do you still remember the Madison Square Garden rally, and the legacy media just was obsessed with one line from that comedian from Puerto Rico? I mean, they were so desperate to try to break up this growing, Latino alliance with Trump. But so, yeah, I'm going to have to read the study myself. There is, again, it's out there. Of course, I'd be very happy of it, but I have to read the study myself to know, to give you the nuances of it. I tend to trust Jack of Red Eagle Politics big time. His political analysis is fantastic. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, can we stop calling it swamp? The swamp is a very useful ecosystem. Yes, I know, Rock Dog. Rock Dog has some very practical knowledge there. Let's start calling DC what it is. The sewer. Rhinos and Democrats are sewer rats. Love it. But it's going to take a while to form a new habit. Just so give me your patience. William, if the United States begins deporting illegals, do you think many European nations will do likewise? It's happening in Sweden. But what about places like France, Ireland, and England? Okay, so the answer is yes. The ones who can, the Netherlands are already talking about it under the leadership of Geert Wilders. And Georgia Maloney started it, but is running into some obstruction from Brussels. Problem with Europe is it is neo-medievalist. This is the term that the kind of Byzantine-like structure they have in their politics. Everything ultimately, especially if it has to do with immigration, has to be run through Brussels. And Brussels right now is very hesitant about mass deportations. And now we're starting to see it, we're starting to see walls go up that say, and in fact, administrative walls that say, we're done, we're not taking anymore. But Brussels to this day is still very globalist, still very managerial, which means in effect that it believes that it is the center of a new globalist world where borders are, they're no longer, borders are an impediment to the implementation of a one-size-fits-all standardized political and economic system. Bottom line. Why can't Ireland and England? England can not do it because they have Keir Starmer and their Labour Party, their Labour majority. The moment you get someone like, I think, a Nigel Farage, the Reform Party, or if you can overturn the current leadership of the Tories and the Conservatives, that'll do it. So you're going to need a total leadership change there. If you're talking about the Republic of Ireland, and France, they're under the EU, and France also has Macron. So they're going to continue to face, at least to a certain extent, some of the obstruction from Brussels. So it's just going to require leadership change, and it's going to require a total restructuring of Brussels, which should happen. Keep in mind, in the year 2000, only about 4% of the seats in the European Parliament were held by what we call nationalist populists, those who want to close borders and like. Today, it's almost 30%. So we're doing it. We're growing, but it's going to take time. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, do you think President Trump's embrace of crypto and his tariff threats, do you think that will cause BRICS to hold off on creating its new currency? Do you see Trump allowing countries to use crypto to buy U.S. products or pay debts to the U.S. government? Good question. Yes on the latter. I don't know if he'll. Yes on the latter. With paying debt, I definitely see. I think it's part of the debt strategy. I don't know if he'll be interested in crypto being used. I think it's Bitcoin. I don't think Ethereum or anything else is going to be, or Dogecoin. For maybe Elon will try to he'll try to get Doge in there. I don't know, lobby his way in. But we have to think of the money in two ways. We have to think of money as your currency to buy, but then we also have to think of money as an object for a long-term of value storage, where you keep your money and also increase it. And that is where it's that latter part of where I think Trump is looking at crypto. The crypto strategy is, if the U.S. Treasury buys up tons and tons and tons of Bitcoin, then it could see its investment grow beyond leaps and bounds. I mean, Bitcoin is the best investment. I got to watch out how I say that, right? Bitcoin has been giving the highest return, I think, over the last 4-6 years of any, it may even be more than that, of any other investment. Again, double check that. I am not an expert on these things. I am certainly not giving anybody advice. But I would definitely see crypto as part of the long-term investment strategy that Trump is employing to increase the overall wealth of the United States, that could then in turn, and we're talking by trillions, that can in turn then be used to pay off the debt. I don't think we'll have any problem with that. What, stave off BRICS? I mean, yes and no. I think BRICS is very practical. The bottom line is, people take exception to the way the dollar was weaponized against Russia. Bottom line, that's what they take exception to. And if the United States is going to weaponize the dollar against Russia, then who are they not going to potentially weaponize that dollar with? So it's a hedge against the weaponization of the dollar. And basically, the debanking, an international kind of debanking that the woke Biden administration was engaged in. If Trump could show, we're entering in a new age, a new world, it's not going to happen anymore, that'll probably stave off. Again, it's no matter what currency they have, it most likely will still be priced in accordance with the dollar. The dollar is still dominant and will be dominant for a long, long time. So, but it's just finding more and more competitors. But I think a good way of looking at it is the dollar is very much like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is totally dominant in the crypto world, but it does have competitors. But those competitors can't do anything even in accordance with crypto or with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin just has a value that's far above those competitors. So that's the way I would look at it. Missy, is there anything we can do if they succeed in keeping Trump's choices out? Any legal action? Megyn Kelly said they succeed in keeping more out after Matt Gaetz. It might empower them. They'll try to keep most of his first choices out. Yeah, well, bottom line is we have to primary them. I'm not thinking of primarying Susan Collins. She's going to do what she's going to do. She's Maine. It's blue state. That's the best we're going to get from Maine. But we could certainly get rid of Johnny Ernst. We could certainly get rid of Lindsey Graham. We could certainly get rid of the guy in Oklahoma. We could certainly get rid of John Cornyn in Texas. They're all up for re-election 2026. That's the advantage we have. That's the leverage we have. So absolutely push back. They're hearing it. They're starting to come to heel here. They're hearing it. They're hearing us rise up and say, we've had it. We've had it. We've had it with you despising your own voters so much. We had it with you. We've had it with you fighting your own more than you fight Biden's choices. We just had it. Yeah. So it's primarying him and getting rid of him. Papagate, if Biden's shooting himself in the foot, is Biden shooting himself in the foot by doing the blanket since 2014 pardon Hunter? Doesn't that open up the case for indicting him, since he's all but admitting Hunter committed bribery or Farah-type crimes implicating Biden? Now that indicting former presidents is a thing, yeah, I'm with you. I do. I don't. It's funny. I don't know if President Trump will do it. It's really interesting. I don't know if he'll do it with Biden. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have any inside scoop. I just get the sense, and obviously Biden was nervous about Trump coming in with his own family in terms of indictments. But I just get the sense Trump sees Biden as a puppet. It's really more. It's the Faucis, it's the Schiffs, it's the Cheneys, and they're just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I think this goes down to the McCabe's, who's the former FBI director before Chris Wray. Well, even Chris Wray himself, I think, is on the chopping block. I think it comes down to the DOJ and Merrick Garland and all of these. I just think they are so sleek. The 51 intelligence agents or intelligence experts that all knew they were lying when they said that about Hunter's laptop. Obviously, if they are, let's put it this way, if they're experts, they ain't very expert. If they're real experts, they knew. So I think that there's there are plenty to indict, and the Biden crime family is just the tip of the iceberg. I really do. I think they're just sprinkles. They're sprinkles on the whipped cream. They're nothing. And that's where I want to go for the prize. And what that is anyone's guess how deep this stuff runs. Vlad the Player, have you ever heard of the Carrington event of 1859? I have not, but I've got my computer here. Ooh, no, I have not. Huge, largest solar storm ever recorded. I have not. Richard Carrington, British astronomer, observed a white flare on the sun's surface. I have not. I'll have to look it up, Vlad, or read up on it. RT Corp, Dr. Turley, apparently the economy added 227,000 jobs in November. Who do you think's responsible for that? And amen. Amen. I did not read the jobs report. That's awesome. Because what was it? It was only 10,000, right, in October? Gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's going to be a golden age. It's going to be incredible. Eric the Red, given what you're saying about AI, do you think Elon himself maybe end up the top dog there? He's investing heavily in it with big computer farm, et cetera. Can he outdo whole countries like China or the USA? No, well, I don't think it's going to be an either or, to be honest with you, because he already has government contracts with SpaceX. So I don't think it's going to be an either or. I think it's going to be a both and. But yeah, he can't outspend China. I mean, China can outspend them. Can't outspend the United States. I mean, they could print money. That's all they. How do you outspend the guy who could just print money, right? Not to say that they're going to do that, but I think it's going to be a combination of the two. I think we're very, very well positioned to dominate AI with our technological know-how and the combination of the entrepreneurial ingenuity and brilliance of the new tech right with the backing of the United States. Again, I tend to be very. I'm not freaked. I'm not a AI naysayer. If the genie's out of the bottle, you're not going to put it back. It's coming. We're getting robots. We're getting all this kind of stuff. The question is, how do we tap into it to make sure it is always there for the flourishing of the true, good, and beautiful? That's bottom line. Technology is a two-edged sword. It could be used to free. It could be used to enslave. So we always want techno-populism, the way it's freeing us from the legacy media, the way it's freeing us from the Bretton Woods debanking system of weaponizing money against us with crypto. We're able to be freed from that. Any way technology could be used for populist civilizational flourishing, I'm all for it. Let's do it. So I think we're in good shape. Again, we have to remember too, China wastes so much money time, energy, and effort on the surveillance state. There's been a number of studies on that the surveillance state actually weighs China down, and it hurts China. We don't have that. Oh, well, by God's grace, with Trump, we won't have anything like that kind of surveillance state. And that means that we're going to be, I think, have an automatic advantage from that vantage point as well. RT Core, Dr. Trillian, I still a maxi for Ripple XRP. Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, Ripple is doing well, isn't it? It's up significantly in the past month and is expected to keep going. Plus, Ripple is close to releasing their own stablecoin, called RLUSD. Disclaimer: investor owner. Amen. Yes, this is not investing advice. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want to keep up on crypto, again, we have Dan Ryder of Prime DeFi. I think I featured him on a video yesterday. When did we hit 100,000? My fellow Bitcoiners, when did we hit? It was Wednesday night, wasn't it? So I think it was Thursday I did that video. If you want to get into it, that's what Dan is for. Dan helps to mentor people to get into the world of crypto. So just click on the link below for that, or link below on my video on Bitcoin. And so, yeah, I'll have to check out Ripple. I know I know people love Ripple. So you're not outside of the margins there. But again, the difference, just in fairness, the difference is maybe I'm wrong, but I see Ethereum, maybe not. Ethereum's kind of in between. But I see those other cryptos as more really like you, ROT, clearly are more for the trader. You guys are kind of in the trading position. You're following it each day and so forth. Whereas Bitcoin is definitely, and to a lesser degree, Ethereum is definitely for sort of the investor who kind of wants to put their money in something with long-term value. It's not subject to the laws of entropy and decay, and that can scale infinitely. And not have to worry about it, right? Don't sell your Bitcoin is the old saying that. I think Saylor coined that, and then Trump said it at the Bitcoin conference. So, Deborah, what about common human problem losing files, etc., in the cloud, and technological crashes and hacking and digital world and the theft? Seems like there's instability in the digital world too. There is, Deborah. There is, but there's always backup in the telecosm. Yes, you have to worry about hacking in the digital world and so forth. But that's why we have cybersecurity as like home title lock, right? That's what home title lock, 24/7 cybersecurity of your home's deeds. You have technological crashes, but there's always they have by nature of the telecosm, there's backups. I mean, you're dealing with energy levels that are hitherto unfathomable. Do you know, for example, there's more data on your phone? Who was it that was just saying this? Kaku, right? The professor, the Japanese Kaku, I think is his name, was just saying there's more data. You have more data on your phone than NASA had all together in the first Apollo mission. Was back in '69. The entire mission that put a man on the moon was, and yes, I do believe a man was on the moon. So don't send me any notes there. I think Elon has made that very clear. That was something we achieved, and we did, and we can do again. But nevertheless, we have more data on this, and that's all backed up, by the way. It's all backed up in the cloud with a number of protocols than we had in the entire NASA endeavor back in '69. So there's a lot of backup. So you have tremendous amount of energy behind it, computational energy, and a lot of government behind it. Governments are securing because they've got all their stuff on the cloud. Now, the only way you can really, outside of theft, you can get some theft there. Crypto is hard to steal. Crypto is very, very hard to steal because of the Ledger protocol. But no, they can steal your information online and stuff like that. Sure, you have to protect yourself. And again, that's why you'll probably notice we have a lot of cyber protection sponsors, but because that's a big belief of mine in the network society. We have to just like you have locks on your front door, you have to have locks on your computers and locks on all of your data that you store. But now for the internet to really, for cyberspace to have any problems, you basically have to have like a world-shattering event. Because our technology is actually interwoven with our geology now and our biosphere and ecology. So so our technology is yeah, our world is basically a cyborg in many respects. So the only way you can bring the whole thing down is through a world cataclysmic event. And if we're having a world cataclysmic event, internet security is going to be the last thing we're worrying about. so I hear you. I mean, you have to take the necessary steps to protect, but it's not subject to the same futilities as Rust and laws and taxes and zoning and trying to find tenants and all for your new real estate business. It's just not subject to those same futilities. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, how soon would the executive order fast tracking oil production? He said day one. Drill baby drill. Do you think we'll be able to self-sufficient again, exporter of oil? I think he needs to grant the pumping and drilling permits for 100 years. What do you think? Can he do that? That's a good question. I don't know if he can do that, but I would agree. I think what I like, again, I don't like saying this because people lost their lives. So I say this in light of that. Okay. But in many respects, I thank God for 2020. I thank God for this 4-year interim, because I think we've learned Trump, the MAGA movement, the rising telecosm. I mean, I think we've just learned so much, and we're now all the wiser for, like you're saying, for the next 100 years. How do we make sure that another administration can't come in and just undo all these things? That's what Doge is very impressive, because they are thinking that way. How do we dismantle the administrative state? How do we absolutely, completely destroy the swamp and not have it come back again, God forbid, 4 years from now? So they're already thinking that way, and they have that plan based on a couple of Supreme Court decisions. And basically what they're doing is they're returning administrative power back that's been in the executive branch back to Congress, and Congress will not give up that power. Nobody gives up power that easily. These new powers arose irrespective of Congress in many respects. Now that they're getting, as it were, returned in terms of at least the formal departments that the powers arose in, now that those departments and caretaking of those departments are going back to Congress, they're not going to let go of those. So the executive branch is going to be basically, in terms of the specifically national security agencies, are going to be more or less completely deswampified. So they're thinking, how do you do that? How does that stretch out into the next 100 years? Which I think is great. But how we do it with energy is a good question. William, one other Europe question. Do you think Trump offers Putin Russian NATO membership? No, I don't see that. That'd be. I mean, again, I have no problem. I think that's good. I think that's basically good. But I don't see that. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, since the Democrats crossed the Rubicon, has the statute of limitations expired? Can we still go after Hildebeest? We'll have to see. Rock Dog. We'll have to see. I don't think statute. What did that election official say in Bucks County, Pennsylvania? Well, since nobody obeys the law anyway, the court decisions don't matter anymore. So we're just going to go ahead and do it. Maybe you can have that same attitude. But all right, gang.
Great chatting with you. Love you all. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you by God's grace on Monday. Take care.